The only way to lose fat is to enter a calorie deficit and lose fat over time. The more muscle mass you have, the more you're burning at rest. People are very impatient these days. Building muscle is such an energy taxing process and it takes time.
This is Soph Allen,
a renowned fitness coach and influencer,
on a mission to help women build lifelong results.
Tell me more about your philosophy behind training.
Weightlifting as our favorite way to train. We'll stick to like 4, 5, 6 exercises a workout, nailing the basics, getting really strong and focusing on technique.
How do you differentiate between what's genuinely beneficial and what's merely a trend? And how should our listeners approach this?
If you're a newer trainer, even more so, you can actually build muscle if you're in a deficit, if you haven't exposed yourself to the stimulus of resistance training.
Okay, I want to talk about something that you've recently shared online. You've been so open about experiencing heartbreak. Can you share how this period of time affected your approach to diet and training?
I'm being like 100% honest. That's my thing. I'm always probably too honest, but I was...
Guys, welcome back to the Chew on This podcast. I am so excited to have one of my good friends here, Soph. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be in Sydney as well to record.
I know. So happy to have you here in person. It's great because we don't see each other often. We see each other often like online, but not in person. So it's really nice to have you here. And it's so cool because like I said, Soph is a really good friend of mine, but she's doing like amazing things. So it's like really awesome to be able to have a friend of mine on the show, talk about your personal experience, what you've built, but also share the knowledge that you have. So Soph, let's start by you just telling us a little bit about you. So what your background is. I won't give away too much, but it is fitness. But Soph, go ahead and share a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I am a personal trainer. I got qualified years ago now, but my formal education is a bachelor in architecture and a postgrad in marketing, which is just completely different to what I've ended up doing now.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the skills have really helped with building a business, which is great. But I was really passionate about my own fitness journey and I started sharing that on Instagram back in 2015, just sharing my journey, like weight loss journey as they tend to start out to be, and grew my following from that and realized I actually love speaking about this topic. I was always spending my spare time researching about fitness and training and nutrition and everything. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to leave corporate. I'm going to do my own thing. People are asking for it. So I took the leap and started my business back in 2018. And that was just writing programs for people just on Excel spreadsheets. And then there was the evolution of the business, which is the app that it is today, Train with Soph, where we help women all around the world achieve their results, sustainable results, educate them, help them with whatever their fitness training goals are and creating a lifestyle that they love.
I'm going to pause you there because I do want to dive into the fitness element of all of this, but I want to get in deep right now. And I'm going to ask you a question that I just want you to be so open about. Can you share a moment in your life where your relationship with food or body significantly impacted your life or your mindset and how you navigated through that experience?
I feel like I have a lot of these. There have been heaps of pivotal moments throughout my journey since 2014 and even before then when I used to look in the mirror and hate what I saw and not know what to do to get the results I so desired, which back then was just to be skinny. But I'd say the thing that stands out the most after going through so many restrictive cycles of being in a deficit, living in a calorie deficit, trying to stay lean, really struggling, obviously because my body was like, please feed me. But it was almost like this perfect storm of COVID happening. I moved back to Melbourne from Sydney. I was on Roaccutane for my skin because my skin was really bad. I was injured and I couldn't train at the gym. And I had gained almost like 10, 15 kilos more than what I like comfortably sit at. And that was just a result of constantly being in a deficit and always just having that gut reaction to like, I need to be in a deficit, I need to lose fat, I feel crap, I need to lose fat, but never spending any time at maintenance. And so I had to force myself and my body to stay at maintenance calories, which was so uncomfortable because I was at a weight I had never been before. I was posting on social media about achieving your results. A lot of that was fat loss. And I just really lost myself a lot in that. And so forcing myself to stay at maintenance was honestly the best thing I could have done for my body, because it needed that reset. It needed the opportunity to restore and heal a lot of the hormonal damage and the damage that occurs when you live in a deficit for so long after competing in bodybuilding. So my relationship with my body, my training, my nutrition was just completely destroyed from that. And then I worked through a lot of the self-love stuff with being in a bigger body that I was uncomfortable in, showing up on social media, working through it. And then eventually I did enter a deficit, and it was like the easiest deficit I'd ever entered. It was like 8 weeks. I lost a lot of weight. I can't even remember the exact number, maybe like 8 kilos or something like that. And then managed to reverse diet and maintain that, and had all the lessons that I had learnt along the way.
Was it hard for you to accept the new you? Like, absolutely beautiful, right? Regardless of your shape and size. But you went through this significant weight loss journey, and then you felt like you went backwards. You had put on 10 to 15 kilos. Were you like, how did you feel in that time when you made that decision to be like, okay, well, I'm just going to give my body a break. I'm going to embrace this. This is me. I need to just be okay with it. And then I can worry about weight loss later, because I actually did touch on this in my first episode. And I spoke about how weight loss is just a Band-Aid solution if you do not resolve your relationship with food. If you do not have good eating behaviors, and you don't have self-love, and you don't know how to essentially feed yourself right, it essentially is a Band-Aid solution. But you took the right approach. You were like, I am not going to focus on weight loss, and I'm just going to let my body to just heal, and I'm just going to give my body a break, my metabolism a break, my mind a break. It is exhausting thinking about weight loss all the time. It's fucking hard. So like, how did you feel in that moment when you made that decision?
It was really, really hard to let go of all of those stories and beliefs and narratives about what it means to accept it, because I was almost like, no, accepting this is accepting failure, and accepting that I won't look a certain way, and it means X about myself as a PT on social media, what people think of me. There's a lot of layers to it with that social media element and having a business and posting so heavily about my body. But it was just this really strong resistance that I was fighting, and I was like, what is this actually achieving? Like, it's just making me feel worse about myself, being like, oh, I'm at this weight, I don't want to accept it, I want to do something about it. And staying at maintenance is doing something about it, but it's that longer term game plan that people really struggle to accept, which is why a lot of people reactively enter deficits and mightn't see the results and really struggle to stick to their deficit, because it's really hard, especially if you've been in that cycle for a really long period of time. But it was also kind of freeing in a way, because I was like, oh, I don't have to worry about this anymore because I've accepted it. And don't get me wrong, there were times throughout that where I was like I was still uncomfortable. I still wasn't where I wanted to be, but I had accepted that staying at maintenance was what I had to do in order to get to where I wanted to be. Yeah. So it was freeing. It was really nice to be like, what if I just didn't care about my weight for once? It's an ongoing thing. And even though I learnt all those lessons, that's not to say I don't still have moments of being like, oh, you know, I would like to be a little bit leaner than I am now. And they're constant things that I work through. But this was a huge lesson in giving my body time at maintenance. Now a deficit for me is like a once, maybe twice thing a year. And the rest of that time I'm fueling my body, I'm eating at maintenance. And it makes entering a deficit that much easier to achieve your results if you've been fueling your body properly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what people don't do is start to accept that this is just them. So it's like they hold on to this, oh, I was so lean. I was like, I had a 6-pack, or you could see my abs, or, you know, I was a size 6, but now I'm a size 8. And they hold on to this. But you just need to accept it and just be like, this is me. I feel good. I'm healthy. This is what matters most. I'm healthy internally, and I have good mental health. And that is the most important thing, because people will never realize when you're only 3, 5, 6 kilos heavier. People don't know, and they don't care. But, you know, personally, we're just like, oh, I just wish I was skinnier or I was leaner. But it's like, just embrace it. Be happy, enjoy food, enjoy life, you know, eat the food that you love and, go and do the exercise that makes you feel good. Stop being so focused on your physical appearance, and then everything will fall into place, which is exactly what you did. You focused on giving your body a break, healing your metabolism, your mind. And then when the time was right, you went through that weight loss journey again, but you saw that success and you were able to sustain it.
Yeah. And redefining what does healthy mean to me.
Yeah.
Because for so long it meant being a certain body fat percentage or size or leanness. And I was like, actually it's not, because my skin's gone to shit, which is why I was on Roaccutane. Yeah. There was just so hormonally it was not good. I just didn't have the energy. My performance in the gym wasn't great. And I didn't know these things until I started eating more to be like, oh, this is what it can be like. So my metrics for how I defined health really changed through that period too, for the better.
Yeah, absolutely. This takes me to my next topic that I actually wanted to chat about. Do you view nutrition and fitness as seasonal aspects of life, adapting to different times and needs, or do you maintain a consistent approach year round?
Yeah, I think there are basics that sort of year round that inform a lot of eating habits and things like that. Like I'm always going to be someone who prioritizes their protein and wants to eat more vegetables and things like that. But I think if you have a really rigid way of thinking about food, you can get really stuck and you can get in trouble when there are certain different seasons of life. And, as women, we have to manage our periods and our cycles, and that can affect how a lot of eating behaviors, people who have babies, people who travel, like any change to routine if you're not adapting to that situation, if you have a really rigid way of doing things, in a way that's also a sort of disordered approach, in my opinion at least. And like I said, there's a base way of eating that I try to stick to, like number of meals, amount of protein, that sort of thing. But that flexible mindset helps you adapt to changes that are inevitable through life.
Yeah, absolutely. There was something that I saw on Instagram, I think it was a couple of months ago, and it's really stuck. It was this girl that said, stop trying to hold on to the person that you were a year ago. You may have been waking up at 4:30 in the morning and going and doing boxing or going for a run and doing this and doing that. And now you're finding it hard to get out of bed at 5 o'clock. You're waking up at 6 or 7 and you're pushing training to lunchtime, and it might not be high intensity anymore. And she's like, the sooner that you start to accept that this is the new you, the more freeing it's going to be. And I didn't understand that for so long, because even myself, I would be so hard on myself when it comes to training and being like, why am I not exercising as much as I used to 6 days a week and, twice a day and being as active as I used to? But I'm in this season of my life where work is so crazy at the moment. And that's the one thing that I'm really prioritizing, of course, with my health and my nutrition, because like you said, you build these habits that you carry every day. My eating is something that I carry every single day. But my training right now is just sitting there when I want to. It's not something that I'm like, oh, I got to wake up and train. And the sooner that I accepted that was okay, the sooner, the better, and I guess the less weight that I felt like I was carrying as well on my shoulders. And I was like, it's not bad. It's just who I am now in this time of my life, which I thought was just such an important message to share.
We're just the hardest people on ourselves. We have these impossible expectations.
Yeah.
And even just getting older in life as well. I'm in my 30s now, and priorities change and things change and life evolves. And like you said, there are seasons of work being really busy or whatever's happening in your personal life, things shuffle around. You've always got your core values of health, and that's going to look different, whether it's through food or nutrition or same thing, but training, things changing. And having that flexibility to be able to move with it and go with it instead of really beating yourself down about it that's another journey that people go on to figure out and discover what their health values are.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's go back to fitness and really dive into that. So what was the catalyst behind the creation of your fitness brand? So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So Train with Soph, as I said, was started in 2018, had a rebrand in 2019 when it became the app. And when I got into fitness in around 2015, when I really focused on it, because there were many attempts prior to that, just running and trying to lose fat however I could. I didn't have the education or the knowledge that I do now. But I found even in that journey from 2015 to about 2017, I was getting all these conflicting answers and things that I should and shouldn't be doing, and random. I was given like 1,400 calories to live on it with no end date, and I didn't understand what you did, like that you would finish eating on those calories, that they weren't just a thing that you lived on. So I like lost my period, lost all this weight, but it was not, it was like muscle, was training like 6 days a week. And not because I was like, yeah, I'm going hard. It was just like, that's what I was told by the people around me. Like I had a PT, I had someone do my calories for me, but they were just the wrong people.
Yeah.
So I wanted to collect everything I had learnt and put it in one place where women felt confident in the knowledge that they were being given, so they could do things right from the start instead of avoiding all the things mistakes that I made in the process. And there's way more information out there now, or way more accurate information out there now.
Oh, look, there's still a lot of waffle. Every time I jump on like TikTok and Instagram, there's a new diet trend, there's a new fitness trend, oh my, can't eat anything these days without someone slamming it. But yeah, there is
terrible.
more information, but there's also a lot of bullshit out there as well, which we'll touch on a little
Yeah, and it's so hard to filter through, but yeah, so I just wanted to put that in one place where women could feel supported and confident, and they would have the community of like-minded women who were on the same journey and had the same values and principles, and really simplifying it, because I think I've discovered my sort of philosophy around training and nutrition, and I wanted to offer that to people who wanted the same thing. So there's a lot of things out there, but we're a very simple approach to training, and it's very evidence-based and just adapts to your lifestyle. So we don't focus heavily on, restricting things or taking things out. It's like, what can you add in to create a lifestyle that you truly love, and you're not just doing it as a form of punishment. So
yeah, that's so important. Tell me more about your philosophy behind training.
So like I said, very simple. We'll stick to like 4, 5, 6 exercises a workout, nailing the basics. So we're really big on like compound lifts, girls lifting, weightlifting, as you could have put together there, is our favorite way to train. We got some home training, but it's not as big in the app. Getting really strong and focusing on technique. And like I said, just stripping it back, doing the compound lifts well, getting stronger, repeating that over time, following the same program for 4 to 6 weeks, and getting really like focusing very much on your performance.
Yeah, and that's what I feel like really differentiates you in the market. You emphasize strength training for women. So I know there's a time and place for cardio, for your fitness and so on, but I see a lot of like big compound movements, your squats, your deadlifts, your hip thrusts, like your glute bridges, and I'm probably saying all these names wrong, but
no, it's right.
Yeah, so all of these big like compound movements. So I see that it's a passion of yours, and I see it's what differentiates you in the market. So tell me, how do you synergize nutrition and training to optimize strength building and performance?
Well, yeah, it really depends on your goals. Like we help women with a variety of goals, whether it's fat loss, building muscle, maintaining, creating healthy habits, a lifestyle that you love, being a beginner and just starting from scratch. So once you have that understanding of what that goal is, say your goal is you want to build muscle, as we've said, obviously the gym component is the main part of that goal. So you need to be lifting resistance weights, you need to be tracking your weights, getting stronger over time, challenging yourself, training at the right intensity, but you really need to be fueling those gains. So building muscle is such an energy taxing process, and it takes time, and people are very impatient these days, even with fat loss, with muscle building, with everything. Fat loss you'll see much quicker than building muscle. Yeah. And often people need to eat in a slight calorie surplus, so a little bit more than their body needs day to day, in order to fuel their muscle building processes. So those two combined, eating in a surplus or at maintenance, and training with an effective program designed for hypertrophy, building muscle, is how we like to match the training nutrition to achieve that goal. And then when it comes to fat loss, it's very much about nutrition, as you would know. Being in a calorie deficit is, you could do any form of training, but as long as you're in a calorie deficit, you would lose fat. But we love resistance training because the more muscle mass you have, the more you're burning at rest. There are so many
the more calories you consume when you're in a deficit as well.
Exactly, yeah. So we love pairing the two because they're very effective when it comes to fat loss and building habits and building muscle and strength. And helping you achieve your goals. So we can add things in like daily step goals, a little bit more cardio, sort of further into the deficit if you feel like the calories, you don't want to gut the calories too much. So there are a lot of tools that we can use. And then maintenance is great for anyone who wants, like you can build muscle at maintenance as well. And if you're a newer trainer, even more so, you can actually build muscle if you're in a deficit, if you haven't exposed yourself to the stimulus of resistance training. It really depends on the individual, but there are so many things that you can do with your training nutrition to achieve your goals.
You know what I appreciate so much is that you're a trainer and you just sat there and said, in order to lose weight, you need to get your nutrition right, which is being in a deficit. And training can complement that in the sense that if you don't want to continue to drop your calories, you can put yourself in more of a deficit by adding in a little bit of cardio or changing your training up. I appreciate that so much because that is a message people don't understand, particularly like in Australia, the importance of nutrition when it comes to achieving weight loss. You cannot out-train a bad diet. Going to the gym alone is not going to make you lose weight. It will allow you to burn more energy, so aka calories, but if you don't get your diet under control and really understand what you're putting in your body, you're going to find it really hard to, one, lose the weight, or two, sustain the weight loss because you don't really understand what you're putting in. So I appreciate that so much because a lot of trainers will be like, oh, all you've got to do is just work out and just do so much cardio, when essentially you're just putting the person in more of a deficit. But if you understand your numbers, you can kind of play with the two to suit your lifestyle in order to achieve the results that you want, which is so important. What are some, like personally going through this journey to becoming, a personal trainer and just the education that you've had and just everything that you've experienced? What are some unexpected benefits that you've experienced yourself when you've tailored your diet to complement your training program?
Mostly the energy and performance side of things. Like even recently, I was in a deficit last year and I sort of didn't reverse diet too effectively, following my own advice. But so I was sort of like in a deficit some days, not other days. Like it was just sort of a weird time. It was Christmas. You're sort of leaning more towards the like soul foods, as we like to call them, maybe not as nourishing or like energy giving foods, drinks, that sort of thing.
That make the heart happy, right?
Yeah. And we love them. We still include them, but like not the majority of your diet for this reason. And then once I sort of switched back to eating at maintenance properly, tracking my macros, I'm not huge on tracking when I'm not in a deficit. It's a tool that I use, but because of the experience and history I have with the knowledge, it means that I know like sort of roughly how much protein I'm getting in a day and that sort of thing. So you're eating enough to recover, you're eating enough to fuel your performance in the gym. And I've started seeing my performance and I track everything, my weights, my reps and that sort of thing. I'm seeing all of my weights going up across like all of my lifts. And I'm like, I feel like this was my top number during a deficit, which is now my like benchmark in maintenance calories. So you really see that performance go up, which when you're not in a deficit, say you're in a surplus or maintenance, can be very important to help you continue on with that because you're not seeing any progress as far as your weight going down. And you can be like, if you're someone who's driven by performance-based goals like myself, it can be disheartening not seeing anything changing. Yeah. So performance and just energy to actually get to the gym, to power through a full workout and to train at the intensity that you need to in order to see muscle gain.
Yeah. Another thing that I've started to do like recently is I like to exercise first thing in the morning because if I don't do it in the morning, I'm not doing it. It's not happening. My brain is just like, no, Mal, I'm going to find every excuse and every meeting to not go to the gym after like 8 a.m. Right?
Afternoon training is just the pits.
I don't know how people do it. Like it's wild. So I would do it on an empty stomach because I'm not going to eat at 5 a.m. in the morning. But I've recently started eating half a banana. And at first I was like, oh, I don't want to just like add on those extra 50 calories or whatever it is. Like it's unnecessary, particularly when you're in a deficit. Every calorie counts. I'd rather get my fruit later on in the day or whatever. But what I realize is if I'm consuming the extra 50 calories and it's giving me that little bit more energy to push harder in my workout, I may not eat that 50 calories of extra like energy, 50 calories of banana and train on like an empty stomach and only burn 200 calories. Or I might eat the 50 and then burn 300 calories or 400. So I felt like giving my body some of that energy before my training allowed me to see an increase in my energy output. So it was like, who cares about the 50 calories when I'm burning an extra 100 to 150? So I felt like that was just so powerful. So very much to like what you say when you're like, okay, well, it gives you that energy to push in your session. It's like women, girls out there, ladies, just eat something before if it's going to give you more energy in your session, because you'll get a better training like session in, and you'll be able to, I guess, get a little bit close to your goals, whether it's like push more to have more of a deficit in training or see stronger lifts if it's strength training and muscle gain.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like there's a whole conversation and opinions on fasting and that sort of thing, but if you do eat first thing in the morning, you're setting yourself up for a really good day. Like if you start the day hungry and then push out and you're hungry, and then you break your fast at like 10 or 12 or whatever it might be, you're probably going to consume the same, if not more calories had you eaten in the day and like managed to maintain your blood sugar levels and everything throughout the day. So I think there's a lot to be said for actually. You
just make better food choices as well, because what I find is that when you fast, and each their own, I'm all about do whatever suits you and your lifestyle. But if you're not able to get the amount of protein that your body needs, like your muscles need, then like I would not be able to get 100 grams of protein in 2 meals. No. Like I struggle in 3 because like I just am not a big like meat eater. So it's really hard for me to get meat into my diet. So imagine having only 2 meals and having to get 50 grams of protein in each meal. Yeah. So if you consistently eat throughout the day and you have protein in every single meal, you can hit your macronutrient targets a lot easier. So sometimes it is better having that meal first thing in the morning, having eggs, having yogurt, having protein powder, whatever is like high in protein for you, and just starting your day off right, because it will just help make better food choices for the rest of the day, in my opinion. And then when dinner comes, you can have a burger or whatever, because you've already hit your protein goals. You don't need to eat like 200 grams of chicken.
Yeah, no, that's the worst, finishing the day and being like, what am I going to have that's got protein in it?
I know. I literally the other day I was like, because I'm tracking my calories at the moment. So much like you, I'll only ever do it when I am trying to like just tidy things up a little bit. And I was like on, 60 grams of protein. I was like, oh my God. This was like after I'd put dinner in. I'm like, wow, I have not made good choices today. And I'm like, looks like I'm going to have a protein shake for dessert.
Oh, yum.
And so it's like, that's why it's so important to just like start your day off right. And I had only eaten like lunch and dinner. And that's why I was like short on protein. It's hard.
It's a stitch up doing that. Yeah.
Okay. I want to talk about something that you've recently shared online, which I've like seen the whole journey, and I know a lot of like your community and your audience would have seen it as well. You've been so open about experiencing heartbreak, and I know so many women can relate to this, or even men can relate to this, right? Can you share how this period of time affected your approach to diet and training, and conversely, how your fitness routine impacted your mental health during that time?
Yeah, that was I had such a response to that time, like grief and anxiety wrapped up. You know, everyone's going to respond differently. Some people are emotional eaters in that time and like really find comfort in eating a lot of foods and their comfort foods. I went the other way. I was so anxious. I felt sick. I couldn't eat. So I stopped. I didn't stop eating. I was still eating, but I just didn't really want food. Like I would probably start eating at like anywhere from 12 to 2 in the day, which is like not me.
Just everything to the opposite of what you've just said.
Exactly. And like I just couldn't. I would start eating like my bowl of oats and I would eat like a quarter or half the bowl and be like, I feel sick. I just feel sad. And so it was really hard for me to get energy, and I would go to the gym and have like head spins and it was not good. I wouldn't recommend it, but I did the best I could. And I also changed my training style. So I would still go and do weights because that's still like my first love when it comes to fitness and movement. But I was like, I just need something else. So I started boxing, and I became so obsessed with boxing. I was doing it with a personal trainer or like a coach twice a week. And I found it just it gave me a sense of mindfulness because I couldn't be on my phone. I couldn't be thinking about anything else other than the combinations that I was meant to be throwing with my punches. And I just really enjoyed it. And it was just a different type of stimulus and training, and learning a new skill is so humbling as an adult, but I really enjoyed it. But I did notice that when I did start to eat again and have the energy to actually perform as I was used to performing, I was like, whoa, I was really selling myself short here by not eating. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to lose all my gains, like all my muscle and all those fears that come up when you're someone who's worked for years to build muscle. But it was just one of those experiences that I had to go through.
Do you think that because you're right, there's two types of people. There's the ones that will lean into food for comfort during a time like this, stress, anxiety, heartbreak, sadness. And then there's others that find it really difficult to eat because you just feel this sickness in your stomach. You're like, I do not have an appetite. Do you think that that's a form of punishment, like the latter? Like, do you look at that and think subconsciously, like it's not something that you're like, oh yeah, I'm doing this intentionally to punish myself. But do you look at that and think, I wasn't showing enough self-love during that time? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. It's funny because, and I'm being like 100% honest, that's my thing. I'm always probably too honest. But I was like in my head, oh well, silver lining of the breakup, like I'm losing fat. Yay. Like I think from my years and years of like conditioning and stuff, I will still always favor and prefer myself to be leaner despite the journey that I went on that we spoke about at the start. I've never really thought about it in that context though, that perception of, is it like a punishment? Is this response sort of like your body's way of subconsciously doing it? It could be.
Yeah.
But I definitely know that I was not displeased by the fact that I was losing fat as a result of feeling so sad. I was like, oh, well, I feel so sad. I'm so heartbroken. But on the plus side, if I run into him, I'm going to be looking good. And I thought that being lean meant looking good. And I did run into him. Oh my God, when I'd been in Sydney for work for a week. I was so sick. I got off the plane. It was like 37 degrees. I looked disheveled AF. And in the supermarket, I was like, oh no. But he was like, you've lost a lot of weight. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, are you okay?
There's so many people that go through like the post-breakup weight loss.
Yeah. Then it comes back.
I was just going to say, but my question is, does it come back?
And this is coming from someone who understands reverse dieting. And I would say I do wish that I was a bit better with it for my body's sake as far as, and I would have liked to have maintained being a bit leaner. It's not the end of the world, but I do wish I was a bit more mindful because I didn't even know. I lost like 5 kilos in like a month or something like that. And I'm like relatively small to begin with. I don't have a heap
5 kilos is
to
a lot.
lose. Yeah. So I was like, I could have reversed better. But at the same time, I lost it so quickly. My body was probably like, we need to regain this from a like health marker perspective.
This was not right for us. We need those 5 kilos.
Yeah.
So that was going to be my next question. Is there anything that you would have changed, like looking back at that time of your life during when you were going through heartbreak and healing? Would you have done anything differently with your nutrition and fitness? And what would you recommend to our listeners?
I don't think so because there's no extra knowledge that would have helped me, I don't think, because I know everything I know about training nutrition. I know it's not optimal to be under eating and losing fat that rapidly, especially from an anxiety perspective. But I'm a very proactive person. So I really lent into therapy and reading and meditating and journaling. Like as far as the breakup goes, it was like a really good response to a breakup. I was very proactive in my healing because I just wanted to move through it. Almost, I allowed myself to grieve. So I didn't sort of try and fast forward or skip it. But I knew what was going on as well. I was like, I know I'm not eating as much as I should be, but I know I will in time. And I know if it happened again, like that's just my body's response and I can't force feed myself. And I ate. Like when I ate, it would be, I'm like, okay, I have to get protein in and carbs to like try and help myself. So I was eating foods that were like vegetables and whole foods and things. Like I remember I was eating a lot of like turkey mince rice and egg. I was just like, get the protein in.
Sounds
This is so-
delicious.
yeah, like weird. Why was I struggling to eat? But yeah, I was like really focusing on my healing. And I don't think I could have done anything differently. But when people message me and they're like, I'm struggling to eat, I'm like, show yourself compassion because your body's doing everything it can to wrap its head around and process this huge thing that's just happened, and it will end. I think if it's something that's going on for a really long time, like my under eating period was only for like a month to a month and a half. Yeah. So it wasn't a significantly long time to have any really negative detrimental effects. If it's something that's going on for months and months, then yeah, you should be looking into ways to, you know, even like liquid calories that add up. So like coconut oils in protein shakes and adding maple syrup and peanut butters and things like that maybe don't feel like you're like putting a lot of volume in your stomach. And this is like the hacks that we give people when they're in a surplus and they're like, I'm eating so much food, I need to eat things that are calorie dense but don't feel like they're taking up space in my stomach. So had it continued to go on and I was worried, that would be the path that I would have gone down.
Yeah, I really like that tip where what you said about when you did eat, you were making sure that you were still getting the right nutrients in, which is so important because you could have gone through this phase feeling anxious and, you know, food's not the first thing on your mind. You're like, oh, I'm not hungry. I don't have an appetite. And then every time you ate, you could have just been like, oh, I'm just going to eat shit. But you didn't. And I really appreciate that because much like when we were talking about, you know, nutrition and training being a seasonal thing, it was a part of your life that was happening and you still kept in mind what was important and what your body needed to. And as soon as you were out of it, you went back to regular programming. You didn't let it carry on, which is most important. So I appreciate that so much. So if there is like anything that, you know, anyone that's going through heartbreak, listening to this, one, show yourself more compassion, and two, like when you can, just make sure you do it right. Just make sure you are feeding your body what it needs in order to get those nutrients it requires, because as a female, our hormones go out of whack. As soon as we start under eating and we're not giving our body what it needs, it just goes so weird. So make sure you're giving it what it needs. And also liquid calories. Yes, those little hacks to get those calories in are better than nothing. So add some peanut butter, some olive oil, some nuts, some avocado, just to like increase your calories through this time. So I want to talk more about just like what a day on a plate looks like for you. So tell me, what does your typical daily meals look like? What do you usually eat before training as well? Like, do you have a specific meal that you have to help optimize your training to give you energy? And do you maintain this consistency in your diet, or is it, again, seasonal? And what are the challenges that you've faced sticking to this like regime?
Yeah, so I'm pretty consistent when it comes to my food, just creature of habit and ease of repetition. So I always have my protein oats. It's just oats, protein powder, maple syrup, peanut butter, strawberries mostly. I like to try and be seasonal with like fruits and stuff depending on what's in season. Also have a coffee before as well. I usually train around mid-morning. That's the benefit of having your own business and it's in fitness. So usually I go to the gym and I train and shoot content. So breakfast is usually the meal I eat before I train. I would just recommend like carbs. Carbs are great because that's the energy we're going to be using during that training session. Yeah. So if you get in like rice cake, bread, banana,
slow
anything like
releasing
that.
as well, like the oats.
Oats, yeah.
Protein keeping you fuller for longer, so satisfied. Yeah.
And great to have protein sort of an hour post workout as well to help with your recovery. And then lunch is just whatever dinner was left over. So I always make double of what I have for dinner. And that's usually just like I always have protein with every meal. So it's going to be like fish, steak, beef mince, chicken. And then I always construct my meals based on macros. So it's like a protein, a carb, and a fat source. So I'll have like rice or rice noodles. I love noodles so much. I'm gluten-free as well. So there's a few like things that I have to change to accommodate for that. Potatoes, I always try to get some vegetables in, so I'm getting micronutrients as well. And then I usually have a snack between lunch and dinner or a dessert, like depending on what I'm feeling. And that might be like protein yogurt, so protein powder in yogurt with berries, or just yogurt or rice cakes with like turkey, avocado. I'm a huge sweet tooth. I love chocolate so much. So often I'll have like chocolate either through the day or as dessert. And that's usually the thing that derails me because I'm just, when you fall out of your routine, like over Christmas, for instance, and then you've got, why do they bring out Easter eggs so early? Easter eggs is like,
they put something in it to make it taste so good.
Honestly,
They
those
just
little
taste
mini
so
eggs,
different.
they just kill. They like absolutely send me, and I've got them in the house from like New Year's Day onwards, and it's like I
They're
can't
so
buy
good,
them
bud.
because like
They're like 30 to 40 calories each. So it's like the perfect like little,
it's such
like
a good
two of them.
snack.
You're just like, oh, I'll just have that after my snack or after lunch, and I'm only having like 80 calories.
Yeah, it must be nice to be able to stop it too. But and you asked about consistency, and like I am not perfect. Like I have seasons and times and moments in my life where I've gotten into the habit of eating way more chocolate in a day, and it's in the house, and I've been gifted stuff for Christmas or whatever it might be, and I just like. It's funny, during the breakup, I was stressed and I didn't want food, but usually when I'm work stressed, I will sort of emotionally eat a bit. And it's like reaching for that, something that you feel like is going to give you energy and something that's easily available and highly palatable. Chocolate. Like for me, that's my thing.
Chocolate just hits
It
differently.
does. And I'm not against people eating chocolate, but it's like sometimes I can struggle with the moderation of it. It's never been a binge eating thing or anything, but it's like, I don't eat it and go, oh, it's too sweet, it's too much, like some people do.
We'll never understand the people
I don't
that
understand
think
these
chocolate
people.
is too sweet. I will
Yeah.
never ever in my life understand.
Nah, grow up. But yeah, so like the consistency I struggle is if I've fallen off my routine, if I've been traveling, if I've been home at my dad's place over the holiday period or something like that, and you just mostly it happens if I like often I'll skip lunch because I'm like out and about doing things with my family, and then I'm really hungry and I'm like I just want something quickly, and then you fall into that routine. So I would say that's when I struggle, but I've been living this lifestyle since 2015. It's so ingrained in me, and not just because this is what I do, this is my routine, but I feel like crap when I don't eat that. Like if I'm just living off sugary foods, like I said, it affects my performance in the gym. It's harder to wake up in the morning. I get tired throughout the day. I also have endometriosis, and eating things like sugar and highly inflammatory foods really affect my symptoms. So there is a whole lot of stuff going on with that redefinition of what health is, which is like feeling energetic, feeling alive, feeling awake, being able to do these things, mental support, everything. And same with training. I'll never be someone that doesn't train just because movement is huge for my mental health.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely struggle with consistency at times, but for the most part, I've got that base understanding of like getting enough protein, getting enough veg. If I'm on like an off period, I'm at least getting 1 to 2 meals in that are those like protein, fats and carbs.
And what people don't realize is that you don't need to aim for perfection. If you were great 80% of the time, that is good enough. Whereas people are like, I can't do it, so I'm just not going to be able to stick to something, and every day turns into a bad day. But it's like, okay, well, if 5 of your days of the week are good and you have 2 days that are just not consistent, it's good enough. Like something is good enough.
Like you're not an athlete. You're not being paid to like, perform at certain level and compete.
Exactly.
And all this stuff. It's for your health. It's for benefits that,
Yeah,
just the standards that we hold ourselves to.
There were 2 things that you mentioned in this that Greer, who I also interviewed, who's our lead recipe developer and nutritionist, 2 tips that she provided was, like, we're talking about meal prepping. And she said meal prepping isn't what people think it is. Sometimes you just cook double of what you have and then you have it the next day. And you mentioned that you always have leftovers. And then another thing that you mentioned were when you construct a meal, you look at all of your sources. So you look at your protein, your fats, your carbs, fiber, and you make sure that you get all of them. And it's that consistency in the same message that you both are sharing that I'm just like, this is so important, and this is what sets you up for success. It's those little things. And those are the things that you've taken years to really know and understand, but also embed as part of like your daily habits, which is just life-changing, because as you go on, even in your bad times, it's something that's always in your mind. It's like, you might have a shit day and you may not eat your plans as planned, but you may have cooked 2 nights and you're like, okay, well, next day I'll just eat the stir fry that I made like last night. It's okay. Tomorrow's a new day. Or, you know, you may get back on track the next day and you're like, as long as I'm eating all of my protein, I'm fine. And those, like, that knowledge and those habits are just so powerful. And it just makes me so glad that you both have consistently said the same message. Just shows the importance of it, which is great.
It's so easy to overcomplicate it. I think people get hung up in hitting calories, hitting protein, hitting carbs, hitting fat, hitting your daily steps, all your training sessions, all this stuff. And it's like, look at the bigger picture. And if you can't count calories and that sort of thing, focus on eating like 80% whole foods, 20% soul foods. That could be 5 days of the week, and then 2 days of the week you're doing, you know, you're going out for meals and stuff like that. A healthy lifestyle needs to include the things that you love. So you shouldn't have to be getting rid of meals out if that's something that you truly love. You just define health in your own way. And if you're feeling good and happy with what you're doing and energetic, which for me is really important, then like, why does the other stuff matter? You know, the weight and all that sort of thing. So
just don't overcomplicate it.
no,
just like make it simple. Small changes lead to like the most significant results. It's just like that 1% daily as well. It's just, it's crazy how
Love you,
it all
James
adds
Clear.
up. Yeah. If you're listening. Okay, so 2 more questions before we wrap it up because we can talk for hours.
I know.
In a world flooded with wellness trends, which is what we touched on before, there is so much online. There is every wellness creator, fitness creator, recipe creator or nutrition creator. How do you differentiate between what's genuinely beneficial and what's merely a trend? And how should our listeners approach this?
Yeah, that's good because it's so hard to know. Like if you're someone who is new to this space or trying to figure it out, like we said at the start, there's so much information out there. Only some of it's accurate and helpful and true. The rules or guidance I like to go by is if anything is extremely restrictive, e.g. cutting out certain kinds of foods, cutting out food groups, you know, like cutting out carbs, for instance, then look at how sustainable that is in your life. Is that something you can do forever? If it is, okay, that might work for you. If it's not, for pretty much everyone out there who can cut out carbs, honestly, it's so hard. Cutting out sugar, like all these sorts of things, they're very restrictive approaches to nutrition. That would be the first sort of warning bell for me looking at any sort of diet someone's coming out with. The other thing is like quick fixes. So people think, oh, there's this new drug that's come out, supplement that's come out. It's fat burning. Guys, the only way to lose fat is to enter a calorie deficit and lose fat over time. It takes time to put on the weight. It takes time to put off the weight. Unless there's some sort of surgery or something, you can't just lose it overnight. And you shouldn't want to either. You should want to learn how to actually maintain the fat loss because that's actually the harder thing, maintaining the fat loss post losing the
People don't realize
fat.
that.
It's so hard. It's a whole
is.
thing. Reverse dieting, look it up, learn about it. If you're struggling to maintain your results, it's probably because you're not reverse dieting or doing something super restrictive.
You're trying to lose it too quick.
Too quick, yeah.
Lose it quick,
takes time.
put it on quicker.
Yeah.
Really, that's my philosophy. But what I'm taking from this is we should block everyone that is telling you to restrict yourself and cut things out because that is a big no-no. You shouldn't have to do that. You need to enjoy the process because if you enjoy the process, it's something that you can sustain for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
So it may work for you to not do this or to do that or eat a certain way or whatever it may be. But as long as you can do it for the rest of your life, that's what matters most is you need to enjoy it.
Exactly. It's that weight regain afterwards that people don't understand because it's like, yeah, you might do keto and lose a whole lot of weight, not because you're like burning through your fat sources. You're literally just like eating fat and not carbs.
You're in a deficit.
You're just in a deficit and you're seeing
Exactly.
and like carbs retain more water.
Exactly.
So it will show up quicker. But if you can't do that after you finish the diet, you're just going to regain it all. So you may as well take the more sustainable long-term approach. And deficits aren't sustainable. You shouldn't be in a fat loss phase forever, but you should be building the habits so that when you finish that deficit, you take the exact same model of eating, you just eat more, and then that's how you maintain it. Like It's literally that simple, but so hard to practice.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, last question. Looking back at the journey you've been on, what's one piece of advice you would give to your younger self about finding balance and fulfillment in both health and life?
I think I really wish I found the right people earlier on, because I think I learnt, and look, I don't regret it because it's brought me to this business that I've built, because that was like one of the main goals. But the journey I went on was so hard and painful, and I think detrimental to my body long term. Like I mentioned, someone who has endo, someone who competed in bodybuilding, all these sorts of things. I just wish I had the right people around me, the right guidance, mentors, PTs, coaches, whatever it was, to lead me in the right path and direction from the start and sort of get it right in those earlier stages instead of spending years in and out of deficits, or mostly just in deficits, and stop trying to be so lean all the time. I wish I didn't think I needed to shrink myself and be small in order to be worthy and accepted, and that meant I was healthy, because it was quite the opposite.
Yeah, I love that. I think stop being so focused on that number on the scale, or being so focused on your physical appearance, eating for performance or another goal, or training for performance or another goal outside of your physical appearance is so empowering. It just makes things a little more fun and exciting. And even the advice of working with the right people, you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
And so surrounding yourself, whether it's like business or nutrition or fitness or whatever, industry or expertise that you need assistance with, surrounding yourself with the right people will help you get to where you need to be a lot quicker, because you're learning, which is most important. So love that. Love both of them. So thank you so much for coming on Chew on this podcast. I loved interviewing you. There was so much insight that you provided, which I know that our listeners will benefit so much from. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Guys, thank you for tuning in. I am so grateful for you spending your time listening to this episode. I hope you loved it as much as I did, and I will see you in our next chat.